Hello, and welcome back to this current campaign as Germany in Europe and Conflict of Nations. And this, of course, is the strategy game Butt Kicker channel. So right now, nothing particularly interesting is going on in this game. It is mop-up actions after the big war. Yes, you can still see there's a lot of red territory, but basically the vast majority of their troops and equipment have been killed. I still have a few destroyers out here I'm currently about to take care of, and there are a few troops, mostly from Turkey, hanging out just to kind of create a booby trap as I'm taking over the cities. But there's basically nothing left in Turkey. That player, I believe, has quit. Poland came back for a few minutes to hit my cities with his destroyers a little while ago, which is why I need to get rid of those. But nothing really is happening, and it's really just a mop-up strategy. So, because I don't really have that much to talk about other than, hey, we won! We kicked butt! Woohoo! I want to talk a little bit about strategies in this game generally, and what is the best strategy to use in Conflict of Nations. Now, again, I showed you in the first video, or one of the first videos, I showed you the game that I was finishing up at the time. I currently have two games going. There's one we've been watching, and there is a slightly older game. When this series started, I had three games going. There was one that I was about to finish. It has the nuking video associated with it, one that I was about to finish. This one, and I also have another one. Now, in this one, where I'm playing as Bulgaria, also I have used no gold in this one. Where I'm playing as Bulgaria, I currently have 58 cities. To the next in line, which is 31, I have 688 points. Next in line is 408. And I've been giving this one a lot less attention because I'm focusing on the one that I'm making videos about. And then we have this one here that we've been watching. Currently, it's a very close game. I currently have 60 cities with 574 victory points. The next in line is Norway with 18 cities and 214. So I know a little bit about what the best strategy is, or best strategies are in this game. And I want to say, and by strategies, I'm talking here about like troop selection, deciding what you're going to use. But that also includes how you're going to use it. But for this video, I want to talk mostly about what you're going to use. One reason I tend to do so well, yes, I tend to be a heavy air player, but it's not because the use of air is inherently, using planes is inherently better than using, say, tanks. The reason it's better is because most players use tanks. The reason I win is because most players use tanks. And other, like Poland had a pretty good strategy in using mostly tank killer vehicles, anti-tank vehicles. So when he went up against tank players, he had lots of anti-tank vehicles, which are cheap, they're easy to build, and he was able to, when he came up against tanks, which are more expensive, take longer to build, he could overwhelm them. So he had a pretty good strategy. The reason I was able to take him out so easily is because anti-tank vehicles and tanks and armored personnel carriers, they have no anti-air component. When they come across airplanes, there's nothing. Theoretically, I could take out 100 tanks with one plane if I had long enough to do it. And the tanks would fire nothing back at the plane. The plane would have full health. So the best strategy is, one, to consider what other people are doing. As you're growing, you want to keep an eye out here. You want to look at what other players generally are doing. Especially you want to look at what the players directly around you are doing. The players directly around you and the biggest players in your world, you want to know what they're doing, what they're using, because you want to know how to counter their strategy and what to build to counter their strategy. So, for example, I've come across some players who had a lot of anti-air. And if I just went in with planes, that could be a problem. But I have to think about if they have anti-air, what kind of anti-air do they have? And I might have to figure that out by just throwing something out there and seeing what hits it. So, for example, if they have a lot of surface-to-air missiles, then I might have to go in with helicopters. I might even have to go in with tanks. I might have to change my strategy to deal with their strategy, which presumably was made to deal with mine. Sometimes I come up against other planes. Now, when I meet up with another player who uses planes, I don't usually change my equipment. Planes are very good at dealing with other planes. I just have to change how I deal with that, how I use my planes to counter their planes. And I've been successful in the past in doing that. But as you're choosing equipment, so if you're a tank player, it's fine to be a tank player. But you have to realize that tanks have some weaknesses. Tanks, let's look at the level 1 tank. They have a punch. Each tank has 9 hit points against infantry and 8 hit points against other armor. 1 against helicopters. Nothing against planes, nothing against missiles, nothing against ships. So it's really hard hitting in this area. Not so much in this area. So you have to consider what you're facing over here and what you might counter. So for example, if you're countering somebody like Poland here who has lots of tank killers, you're still going to have a problem with that. So the best strategy is to consider, first off, as you're first deciding how you're going to start to build, is to consider what you're likely to face from other players. And what you're likely to face from other players, first of all, they're going to be using infantry against you because that's how everybody starts. Everybody starts with basically the same thing. Some countries just have more of it than others do. So you're going to be facing infantry and a few light armored vehicles. Like the Fox, whatever. I forget what they're called. They're the ones that can see ahead. I'm terrible with remembering words. Anyway, recon. Yeah, you're going to have a few recon vehicles and infantry. As they build, most people first go to tanks. So, if you want to know what to build to start with, think about dealing with tanks. You will occasionally, if you focus on dealing with tanks, you will occasionally meet up with somebody like me who's using airplanes. You might want to think about that to start with, but in most games you join, you will never encounter somebody hitting you hard with airplanes. If you see someone hitting hard with airplanes, then you have to start to think about dealing with that because eventually they might come to your borders. But first off, most of the time you're going to be dealing with people who have tanks. So tanks are slow, so you can think about speed, you can think about moving around tanks when they're trying to attack you, if you're invading their country, if they're trying to attack you, moving around them, and how to deal with them when they are entrenched in cities, what to do to get rid of them. Tank killers are good, and use of air is good. Use of artillery. You don't find many heavy artillery users. That can actually be a very successful strategy. If you do artillery, I encourage you to consider using both kinds. There's the towed artillery. It's the kind you get when you first start the game. You have one of those. You have a howitzer. But there's also mobile artillery, which can be very effective when used together. I really like the towed artillery. I'm not an overwhelming artillery player. I like them as a secondary choice. I like the towed artillery because they travel by helicopter. When you build them up a little bit higher. So taking a look at our towed artillery, when you get up to day 15, now you can move in on helicopter. So it means you can move from one location to another very fast with towed artillery. And you don't get that with the mobile artillery. Let's see where mobile artillery. So you don't get the drop in by helicopter. But each of them, when you get them really well upgraded, they pack a huge punch. The towed artillery is better on infantry. The mobile artillery is better on armor. But they both pack a huge punch, and you can get those. You can get the towed artillery onto helicopters and drop it in when you need a little extra support, and that can be great. All right, so right here we have one of our strike wings is about to attack a ship. That is going to take a little bit of a toll on our planes, but that's okay because we'll be able to build more, and we're not in a big war now. It looks like we are still. It looks like it's still a big war because there's still a lot of red. But we're actually not in a big war now, so we can feel free to take out these annoying ships that are causing problems. And I'm going to be hitting it both with some artillery once I get there. It's still going to take a couple of hours for the artillery to get there. And some planes, and we're going to get rid of those destroyers that are causing us problems. All right, so that is the update for now. Currently in mop-up phase, woohoo fun, and going to be soon invading Turkey. It is going to be Thanksgiving. Time to carve the turkey. But I also wanted to talk about how to have a successful strategy. And you don't want to follow a particular strategy. You don't want to say, like, I've watched strategy game Butt Kicker, and he uses planes and does well, so I'm going to use planes because, well, for one thing, if you have enough people who are using planes, then everybody is just going to start to counter that. And suddenly the planes aren't going to work anymore. So instead, you want to do two things. You want to think about what other people might be doing, and then you want to look at what they're actually doing. And once you do that, early in the game, you want to think about what people are likely to do. Most of those people are going to be going for tanks. So you want to think about, okay, most people are going to be going for tanks. Sometimes they're going to have armored vehicles. Sometimes they're going to have tank killers. They're going to tend to look, most often I see they go for mechanized infantry. They don't keep making the mobile infantry, the motorized infantry like I do. So you're going to want to think about what they're doing and how to counter those specific things. And then once the world begins and you actually see wars happening, keep an eye on Khan News. It is the best source of information. It lets you know what people are using to kill each other, to knock out each other's troops. And then you know what you are likely to face as you do the same. All right, so thanks for watching. We just hit that ship. And let's see if we can see. Yep, we just took a chunk out of its health. And we are going to be getting rid of those ships. And I will come back with a further update as we continue to play. Thanks for watching. Come back. I'm also working on starting up Civilization video. So that's going to be fun to watch too. We're gonna kind of alternate. You're going to see some Civilization and Europa Universalis and other things happening simultaneously as we're playing this. So sometimes you're going to see more than one video in a day. Other times I'm going to be using those other games to make up for lags as we continue with this campaign. And we'll see how we continue going forward. If you like to watch these videos and you play a particular game and you want to know more about it, even if it's not something I already play, I might be willing to drop in and play a few games and come up with some strategies and make some videos about that. So I'm willing to take suggestions if you have anything you want to talk about. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please subscribe and share and comment and like and all that stuff. And I will be seeing you tomorrow probably.